When it comes to defense, we all know that the St. Louis Blues struggle, but was it really that bad? Let's talk about it here on Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked On Blues, I will be talking about the biggest problems with the defense. I will be grading Zachary Bolduc, and you will also be seeing an exclusive interview that I had with Zachary Bolduc back in, I believe it was March. And then, of course, on Are We Feeling Blue? A lot to get to on today's episode. I have to tell you, it is one of those episodes where I just was like, I can't wait to get this out. And I think because of the interview, I'm going to spread them out throughout the off season. But for me, I have these interviews on my phone and I'm just like, I want to share them. I want you to see them. So definitely, I think more excited about you seeing these interviews than anything. But it's going to be a fun episode. And what makes it even better is that today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on the classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or Google Play. So let's talk about the defense. Was the defense really that bad? Okay, so I know the obvious answer is yes, it was that bad, Hale. I understand where you are coming from. I do. I get it. But when you look at the defense as a whole, you have players that weren't so awful, right? I mean, Colton Parayko, Jay Folk, and, you have Scott Perunovich, Tyler Tucker. You have different players that actually individually are not bad players. Some of these guys are young, rookie season, but and then you're going to get into guys like Torrey Krug. And I know what you're thinking. Hale, are you being for real right now? Are you about to defend Torrey Krug? I'm just going to say this, that you put a lot of pressure on one guy on the team to be this absolute all-star when at the end of the day, he, yes, is there to be helpful, but it's like, you can't expect him to do everything. Now, I was actually watching our Cup Run documentary a couple of days ago. I mentioned here on Locked On Blues, and it always cracks me up when I think about the fact that we play Torrey Krug and just Torrey Krug. But I mean, I get very frustrated when it comes to the defense because I think that there was a lot that needed to be changed about it. And I was a little surprised that Doug EA didn't do anything last offseason. So for me, at least, it was one of those situations where I'm like, okay, the defense has a lot of work. I just think that this thing was off. I mean, the blocking shots. I mean, Parayko, I think, was one of the leaders in NHL block shots. So can't hate on him. But it's an interesting concept when you think about the defense and how problematic it has been. Because I feel like that's the one thing that people say about the St. Louis Blues. Oh, the defense sucks. Okay, as a whole, the defense isn't great. And I'm not defending it. I'm just saying it how it is. But it's not the worst defense in the National Hockey League. Sure. When the Blues played against some of the better teams in the league, did the defense kind of crumble? Absolutely. Was it like Swiss cheese sometimes? I don't mean I don't eat cheese, but yeah, absolutely. But when it comes to the defense as a whole, and this is what I'm trying to get to you specifically about. Can you really look at the defense and say this is truly the worst defense? Or can you look at the defense and say, you know what, it just didn't mesh? I hate so much and so badly when players that I genuinely really like, players that I think have a lot of potential, I'm talking about guys like Tyler Tucker, right? Some of the younger guys who just get absolutely roasted all the time because for whatever reason, people are just going to complain about the defense as it is. But I'm going to name through all the players, right? Is this from this season? Yeah. Justin Folk. Did Josh Jacobs even play? He didn't even play. Why is he on here? Whatever. Torrey Krug. Not bad. Nick Leddy. Again, how can you look at Nick Leddy and say he's a bad player? Colton Parayko. Again, one of my favorites. Perunovic. We talked about him. Young. Not great, but young. Marco Scandella. Huge fan of him. Wait, Scott Perunovic is not as young as I thought. Never mind. He's older than I am. And then Tyler Tucker. Wow. So Josh Jacobs and I actually had the same birthday, which is kind of funny, different years, but I went through the list of defenders. Could you name me one defender out of the list of defenders that I named you? Folk, Jacobs, even though he didn't play, Krug, Leddy, Parayko, Perunovic, Scandella, Tucker. Name me one of those players that you truly think is awful. And I'm curious what you think, because on tomorrow's episode, well, Monday's episode, we're going to go over essentially the offense. But when I read you that list, did you think of one particular player in your head where you're like, you know what? That's the weak link. That's a problematic player. We need to get rid of him. He needs to be traded. He should retire because, again, that's always an option, right? But I do want to know what you think about who the weakest defender on the St. Louis Blues is. And again, I'm not trying to bash players on this podcast, but I am trying to have a conversation to truly figure out what went wrong and what went right and what could be fixed so the Blues don't miss the playoffs 3 years in a row next season. I just can't believe it. But I hope when it comes to the defense, you're able to be optimistic, give me a response, because if I looked at that list and you said, Hale, which defender out of all of them do you think is the weakest? I would say Scott Perunovic. And it's something against Scotty P. I saw him play with the T-Birds. I don't think he's bad. I just don't think he had a great season. And I always root for younger guys, right? I always want them to be successful because, again, this is a huge opportunity to be in the NHL, and you always want to see them succeed. But out of the list of guys, Tyler Tucker, I'm always going to defend first off, because I watched him a lot with the Thunderbirds, and the amount of effort that he puts in is unmatched. I've never seen a player on the T-Birds in recent years, because I try to go to some of their games since the AHL teams are actually closer to me than most of the NHL teams. He just has put in so much effort, especially this season. He earned every single time he got called up. Earned it. Deserved it. So when it comes to players that I will defend, Tux is one. Another player that I will always defend is Perunovic. I'm going to always, by the way, defend Jay Folk. So, and Torrey Krug to an extent. I just don't like all the negativity and the meanness that comes about Krug. But again, whole different conversation. But I want to know what you think. So again, let me know what you think. So that way on a future episode, we can have a conversation about your comments. I want to let you know about my friends over at Indeed. When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could just pick the best stars for your business team? If you're building your talent roster, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do that all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like matching, assessments, and virtual interviews. Hate waiting? Indeed's U.S. data shows that over 80% of Indeed's employers find quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. One thing I love about Indeed is that it is so easy to use, and I love myself a website that is just an easy website that is easy to use. So Indeed knows when you're growing your business, you have to make every dollar count, and that's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. So visit Indeed.com/locked on to start hiring now. just go to Indeed.com/locked-on, Indeed.com/locked-on. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Indeed you do. I am so excited for this because I am about to premiere my Zachary Bolduc interview. Let me go tell you how it went. Back in March, the Blues came to the city that I live in. I got credentialed, obviously, because your girl had work to do. I had a We Went Blue day, literally, like, in my apartment. Like, I woke up and I was blasting Gloria. You're always on the run now. And then I was playing our, Goldhorn song. Whoa, whoa, let's go Blues. Like, I was having the time of my life because I felt so energized because I've watched the Blues play, but I've never been a credential media member for the Blues. I was going to meet Jamie Rivers. Like, it was one of the most exciting days ever. And all the great writers that cover the Blues. It was so cool. And I think the coolest part was, and I know on the channel I posted the post-game interviews, but that's just generic post-game interviews. A cool opportunity that I had was to literally go to their morning skate, which, again, so cool. Robert Thomas was the first one on the ice, like usual, for like 15 minutes. And then after their morning skate, I was able to literally interview all the guys that were available for media. So there were some players, I think I interviewed almost every guy in the room, but there were some players that just didn't want to be in the media kind of section. So like Joel Hofer wasn't, which is fine. Perunovic wasn't, Tucker wasn't. And again, I don't know how it works and like their whole system. Just certain guys weren't available, but I did talk to like I think 8 or 9 players. I did an interview with like 3 guys at once, kind of. It was a lot. But I showed you the Jordan Kyrou interview because that was when the Blues were on their playoff push, and he talked about that. Kyrou just wanted to talk about the playoffs, and God bless, like, he's gone through so much this season, and it was just nice to have a happy conversation with Kyrou. But a player that I wanted to talk to was Zachary Bolduc. Now, you might be wondering, Hale, why was it so important to interview Bolduc? Well, I'll give you a couple of reasons as why. One, when I interviewed him, I think it was a week, I want to say, after he scored his first goal. I think it was. And he's one of those players that honestly, I was just so excited to see him play. So it was one of those things where it kind of just like really worked out. I wanted to hear his, basically his reaction to what happened. I watched him a lot on the Thunderbirds too, so that was another thing. So, I mean, I watched a lot of T-Birds hockey this season, so it was cool. But he played, it was 50 games for the Thunderbirds and 25 for the Blues. So I don't think I missed a single Thunderbirds game, like watching it. Again, I love the AHL. Like, that is one thing about your girl, Hale, is I will always be watching the AHL T-Birds. And literally, when he got called up to St. Louis, I was like, okay, I see you. That's what's up. Because if you think about it before, I mean, he was at the Quebec Remparts for a couple seasons, and he's such a new face in this town. So I think that for me, it was just one of those things where I wanted to get to know Zachary Bolduc, right? And I wanted to know what it was really like for him to score the first, ever NHL goal on his birthday, which is, I mean, the Blues did lose that game. That is such a cool thing to have happen. So I'm going to play you the interview now of Zachary Bolduc, and then I'll give you his grade for the season. So enjoy. And again, if you look at the background, I think Shen is getting changed. Just ignore that. I couldn't help what the players were doing behind him. So ever since you've been brought up to the St. Louis Blues, you seem to really be impressing fans. Can you tell us a little bit about, what's it like been scoring and really getting the city going behind you?
Yeah, I mean, the fans are amazing in St. Louis. We had a huge game on Saturday night, and they were there. It was pretty fun. My family was there too, so it's it's kind of cool. So yeah, I like that. I like the crowd. It's pretty.
And you had your 21st birthday and you got a goal on the same day. What was that like for you to have that kind of experience?
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. I mean, my 21st birthday, and I scored my first goal, so it was a huge day for me, and yeah, I'm pretty happy and just looking forward to the next few games. Yeah.
Cool, awesome. So how cool was that? As I said, ignore Shen literally changing the background, but I think that for him, he was just really happy to talk about it. And just so you know, whenever I interview a player, some NHL teams don't let you record on video. The St. Louis Blues did, so that's why there was video. But I always ask them, hey, are you cool being on camera? So Shen knew that I was recording. I literally have an interview with Shen, and he knew. And I kind of say to the guys, hey, I have a couple of things I can ask. Like, what's one thing that you would rather talk about? And Zach wanted to talk about what it was like, playing for the Blues and scoring that goal. So again, all the players give me their consent for these videos. So I just want to put that out there because I know some people might say, oh my God, Haley, you're recording in a locker room. I have permission from the PR team and I also have permission from the players. Because again, some of the teams that I've worked with before don't let you do those videos. So I just want to put that out there. So anywho, my grade for Zach Bolduc this season. So I know I gave a couple high grades earlier in the past couple episodes. And for Bolduc, this was a tough one because he is a center. So I did get a little bit more out of him. He only had 9 points for the Blues. 25 points for the T-Birds. But if we're going purely off of St. Louis, I think I'm going to give him a B minus. And I don't want anyone to take that in a negative way. I think a B minus is still very good. I just don't think he did anything that really impressed me. But he played consistent, good playmaker, good with puck possession, puck control, which is important with this team. And I can see growth within him. So B minus, not bad at all. So that was super cool to talk to him right after all that went down. So I want to talk to you about my friend over at Monopoly Go. I've been told I'm a competitive person. You think that's true? Okay, well, I am. Yeah, did I just talk to myself? Exactly, because I'm competitive. Okay, we all have a competitive side, and my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, splitting up amazing cities that bring you big money. The best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on iconic properties, just like the classic Monopoly. But now I can also heist their vaults of the riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. Are we feeling blue? No, I am not at all, actually. I'm a little disappointed in how quiet this week has been. Everyone's like, oh, Haley's going to be happy. I mean, I'm happy. I just feel like there hasn't been much said. There hasn't been anything about coaching changes. I hate that we're done in the playoffs. I don't know. Am I feeling good because we're at a standstill? It just sucks. Okay. So, no, I'm not feeling blue. Do I feel like it could be better? No. Because the pain of us not being in the playoffs does not make me feel better. 2, I just want to know what the changes will be. So when that happens, let me know. But no, I'm just gonna be real. Like, no, like I'm not feeling 110% right now about this team. Maybe when changes happen, I will. But until then, no, I'm not feeling blue. All right, I will talk to you tomorrow, and we'll talk some more about my annoyance with not being in the playoffs. I'll give you that. All right, St. Louis, I will see you tomorrow. And like always, let's go Blues.